Hey, I'm Spencer, owner of Pumpkin Mind Cyclery. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with me and the bikes that I ride, but I know many of you aren't. So today I want to talk a little bit about my personal favorite bike, which is my Pivot Mach 4 SL. This is a bike I've had for a little over a year now. I went to this one. It's a full suspension bike. I went to this just so I don't feel so beat up on the mountain bike trails. Right? A lot of times when I was on a hardtail bike, I'd get done with a long ride and I just felt like I got out of a boxing match with my lower back and neck and shoulders. And going to the full suspensions really helps smooth things out for me. This full suspension's a little bit unique compared to some of the past ones I've been on. This is what I would call a down country bike, kind of a blend between a cross country race bike and a trail mountain bike. So it's getting the best of both. It's super light, it's only around 25 pounds, but it has a lot of nice features that you'd find on a trail bike, like longer suspension fork, wider handlebars, a dropper seat post so I can move that seat out of my way for descents and corners and drop-offs. Things that make this thing a lot more capable for me and a lot more fun just for everyday trail riding. This suspension, the Pivot they've teamed up with Fox and they've used something called the Fox Live Valve. And there's only a couple of manufacturers that are using it at this point. It's pretty new and pretty advanced technology. So what the Live Valve is, you have a battery and controller unit underneath the frame here that's wired into both the fork and the shock. And the shock and fork have sensors on them that are constantly sensing the ground underneath you and the little bumps that you're hitting. And if you're going uphill or going downhill, it's sensing those things and sending that information to the control unit here. And it does about 1,000 messages a second that it's sensing. And that controller will automatically lock or unlock your suspension based on what you're going over. So essentially, if you're hitting a bump, it absorbs the bump and then locks out right after. If you're going uphill, it firms it up. If you're going downhill, it opens your suspension. If your front tire hits a bump, it lets the rear tire know that a bump is coming. And if your tires leave the ground, it knows that your tires are off the ground so it can open things up when you hit. Super advanced. It really does give you the benefit of a hardtail and a full suspension wrapped into one bike because of what that control unit's doing for it. So Fox Live Valve, huge improvement over anything I've been on. My bike came equipped with Shimano XTR 12-speed, flawless drivetrain. It has the XTR 2-piston brakes on it. I'm a big fan of Shimano brakes. They work extremely well. They're quiet, they're powerful, they're everything you'd want in a braking system. The Shimano 12-speed shifters have been flawless as well. They do great product. I went with the DT Swiss carbon wheels. That's the 1200 series wheels. Again, no complaints there. They're light, they're stiff, they perform well. There's a few things that I did change from the factory on this bike. So I went with different tires. I wasn't as big of a fan of the Maxxis tires that came stock for this area. I felt like they didn't have quite the grip I needed going into corners as something with a little bit more aggressive of a tread would have. So I went with some Continental Cross King tires. They've got a little bit more pronounced corner lug to it and a little bit wider space center pattern to it. Really locks up well to our local trails. I also changed my cockpit configuration. Put these togs on, which give you a secondary hand position. The togs they allow you to take your thumbs and just wrap it up and kind of relieve some of the tension on your hands as you're riding. I also switched to these ODI grips. These are the dreadlock grips, I think they call them. A little bit spongier, almost like an ESI grip or a wolf tooth grip, where it gives you a little bit more cushion for your hands, but they're a lock-on grip and a rubber end cap on it, so it's a lot more durable for clipping trees, which I am notorious for clipping trees, so that makes a big difference for me. And my favorite cockpit update was the spur cycle bell. Lets hikers know you're coming. I always ring it when I'm coming up to an intersection on the path, so that way if there is any runners going the other direction, they know I'm coming. That's really the only stuff I've changed here in the cockpit. The other thing I added was a Mucky Nuts fender. With this suspension upgrade, with the Live Valve, I wanted to make sure to protect that suspension so any of the dirt flying up isn't going to land on the stanchions isn't going to land on the fork seals here. Just helps to keep it a lot cleaner and help reduce some of the maintenance involved with that. Beyond that, the only other stuff I changed on the bike from the stock setup was going to a Specialized Phenom saddle. That's been my saddle of choice for years now. And I switched out to an oval chainring. It's an absolute black oval ring. Reduces some of the dead spots in your pedaling, and it helps keep you keep your bike locked into the ground on climbs. It improves your traction on climbs. Yeah, the bike's been phenomenal. Without question, the best mountain bike I've been on, and I've been on a lot of high-end mountain bikes. So if you're in the market for a new bike, if you're looking for a nicer upper level mountain bike, definitely check out the Mach 4.